Hey there, I was just speaking with one of my agents who is having some issues with getting some activity on a listing that she has. Now, the listing's new construction, so obviously the condition is good, and we know that real estate is all about price and condition. So assuming that the condition is good, or your listing, the condition is as good as you're going to be able to get it, based on what the sellers are willing to do or not do, I have 3 practical tips for you to help you know if the price is right. Now, the first thing that we're gonna wanna do is after we take the listing, because a lot of times we'll do a CMA and we'll go into the listing appointment, we'll get the listing at a certain price, but then we forget to continue to check what is happening competitively wise in the market, CMA wise, what's selling. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is, if it's been a few weeks or even a few months and your property's not getting the activity you want, go back and look at everything that's sold since you last did your CMA and ask yourself on those sales, how does my property compare to these sales? Is it better? Is it worse? Based on how these sold, does that affect the price of mine? So that's the first thing you're gonna wanna do. The second thing you're gonna wanna do is go out and look at the active inventory. Now, this is really critical because in any given moment, somebody is choosing a home in the marketplace to go look at, and it may be yours or it may not be yours. And a lot of times if a house is not moving, we automatically think we need to do a price reduction. And a lot of times that is the case, but here's a way where you can definitely know is go in and study the active inventory. Maybe even schedule a preview or schedule a showing with your seller to go look at that property and actually compare it to yours. Now, I know this can be a slippery slope because a lot of times our sellers will think, well, my house is better because of this, that, or the other thing, and they have an emotional attachment to that. But you have to go in and objectively look at these properties and say, hey, all things considered, how does my house stack up against this? But my favorite and third tip for you is, in our market, we had showing time. I don't know if you have showing time in your market, but you may have something like it if you don't. And what we were able to do is we were able to go into showing time, the service that schedules all the showings for all the realtors from all the real estate companies, and we were able to pull reports on how many showings occurred. So we could identify an area or a neighborhood and a price point, and we could let showing time tell us how many showings occurred in that price point, in that area, and over that segment of time. So here's a real world application. Say, you went through the weekend, you had no showings. Your sellers are calling you, hey, what are you doing? How come we have no showings on our house? And it's like, hold on a second, let me do a little bit of research and get back to you. Now you can go into, showing time if you have something like it, and you can pull this report and find out, okay, my house is listed at $500,000. I'm gonna look at houses that are priced $25,000 below and $25,000 above. So I'm looking at a $50,000 price point range. I'm looking in the area where my house is, and you can find out exactly how many showings occurred in that segment. Now, if there was 10 showings and you got none, what does that tell you about your property? That means the buyers looked at what was available, chose to go look at properties to the tune of 10 showings, but yours wasn't one of them. And if your condition is good, or as good as it can be, that's probably an indicator that you need to do something with the price. However, if the sellers are like, hey, why didn't you get any showings? What are you doing? And you're not doing anything. And you go in there and there was no showings in that price, that means there's no buyers in the marketplace right now, because that's pulling showing activity from all agents from all real estate companies. So those are 3 tips that you can do before you make a price reduction so that you can keep your sellers informed about what you're doing on their property and what's happening in the marketplace. Check all the things that might have sold since you last looked. Check all the active properties that are in your range, and specifically check how many showings happen in that market segment. That should help you to know whether or not you need to price reduce, or there just wasn't a lot of activity at this time of the year.